so far and recovered from it, and so that's one of the filters they put on in their admissions process, which I found very interesting.
Yeah, and just what we've been talking about before is there is sort of a myth that this entrepreneurial world is sort of one of these friendly clubhouses, and you just get to leave the big buildings where you kind of feel like you're alone in your cubicle, and you're joining this giant romper room of fun. And you really have to do more alone as an entrepreneur than you do together with people in a large company, because you have less resources. So this ability to sort of self-sustain yourself is really, really key. And for women who are cliffing, it's going to be very challenging. Well, they're students. It will be very challenging for them to survive in the entrepreneurial world. They should join larger companies first, where they have, buddy systems and mentoring systems, because it is really tough. There's not awards given in most of these companies. Most of our CEOs are not really good at the group hug stuff, until they lose a couple of employees, which is unfortunate. We try to tell them that, kind of this culture stuff, it's really important to, you only get this familial thing for a while when you build your company. But in reality, there's very little of it. So it is one thing to, I don't know what could be put, I'm not an academician, so I don't know what could be layered in there to sort of, celebrate that failure versus look at it as the glass half empty, like Joyce, or the glass half full, as Joyce said, versus the glass half empty, in sort of your ability to succeed in a more entrepreneurial environment.
So on the confidence side, I do think that communication, a more confident communication style can be taught too, and I think that's something, as an entrepreneur, if you're a CEO starting a company, you have to be a salesperson. You will not be effective unless you can sell, to investors, sell your product, sell to potential employees. You're constantly in a sales mode. So if you cannot kind of project that confidence and belief, as a kind of a salesperson, I think that that's just a very important quality, and that can be learned, I think.
But I would agree that if you were presenting to other women, they might not perceive you as lacking confidence, whereas men would. I think that's a very real observation, and I think that perhaps is one of the reasons people were thinking that I shouldn't be the CEO, is because I have a very different style of talking. It's not that I don't have confidence, it's just I don't express it the same way.
When I was a young entrepreneur, this is one of my greatest fears. When I graduated from college, I had a double major, but there was no early graduation. I was kind of done with the major, so they let me into the acting major for a couple semesters, which was very helpful. It was frightening. But still, when I graduated and I started my business, I used to carry around a little cassette of ABBA tunes, and fortunately it became a famous musical, so people know what I'm talking about again. And so right before I would go into a meeting, I was 22, and I remember I was just at Fujitsu yesterday, and I was telling them the story that my first big OEM agreement was with Fujitsu, and so I had to fly from Minneapolis to LA. Fortunately, I don't sweat a lot, so going up those 50 floors to the top floor to get the contract signed when I was 22 was very frightening. So I sat in the parking lot and played that "Take a Chance on Me" song like 100 times before I went in. But you have to do that kind of stuff, and somehow you have to figure this out by yourself. Is how do you sort of overcome these kind of fearful moments where that the gap between your capability and the job you have to get done is a chasm.
Yeah.
So I think there's something else with regards to this rejection of ideas, whether it's rejection of a paper or rejection of your business plan pitch, and there is documentation that men can actually see that as a separate thing. They're rejecting the idea, whereas women say they're rejecting me. And unless you can actually decouple the intellectual from a personal feedback, you have a very hard time getting up and going out again. And that's just a lesson that you have to constantly remind yourself. It's okay, because, okay, the idea might not have been great, but I'm still great, and I'm just going to come up with another version. That's a long last. Now, Hannah, you've been waiting for a long time.
The question was already answered. It was about the how you select leaders. I think you pretty well.
Well, then it's Jean's turn. And we'll follow along, Londa, you're next, and then you're next.
We did it in early 2000, some research on women of Silicon Valley, and one of the things we learned was that a major factor in why women were dropping out of business in general, and particularly running companies, was the issue of the quality of life. And each of you have referred to this in one form or another. Would you want to talk a little bit more about that and how you balance that between what you do with your families and what you do in the community and what you do in your business, and how you balance that as running major ventures of your own?
Well, I will say one thing about 2000. It was a bad year to be surveying anything here. And when I saw the survey results, maybe the women were just smarter to exit the venture industry before the men, because it was completely a lunatic time here. So there was no quality of anything in 2000. We were, I always dispute any research done that 1995 to 2000 time period. So it's great to see the newer research come out, because
No, and you can't actually claim that, because that was the data as of January 1, 2000. It was pre-crash.
Oh, it was crazy then too. I have to tell you that. By the time it got to crash, it was long over. So, it's very interesting, being involved with another university myself, to see the current graduates, that all of them have social responsibility as part of their palette, even as undergraduate students, a very dramatic change from when I went to school. So that there is even sort of a bigger plate that young people are building for themselves from the start, and we're starting to see some of that pervade in Silicon Valley. I've been in the industry a long time, 30 years since I started my software company, so you do, over time, have to enlarge your plate, because you have a responsibility from, what you've done to others, and for, to participate in nonprofits. Hopefully your university asks you for involvement, and you do take that offer. But we really are seeing that the people that are coming to be funded, men and women, really, are much more circumspect on what their life is going to be like, and what their contributions have to be, not only to their business and their family, but also the community at large. So, I can't say enough about, how silly I feel about just spending all my time on my company in the early days, because I think the younger graduates are, much more thoughtful on how they're going to piece this all together. They have the same challenges, but they're thinking ahead more than I think I ever did. But, the point I made earlier is I don't think that you actually can be a senior person.
I think that's true of women as well.
Oh, absolutely.
They're thinking that far out.
Yeah, I don't think you can anticipate how hard everything is to fit everything in. But, interestingly enough, you always have more time than you think. It feels like less, and if you really have the confidence to know that you don't have to do everything yourself, like Diane said, she's no longer choosing the wastebaskets, but if she was choosing the wastebaskets and still doing everything she did from day one, she would be laying on this table, not sitting there. So you figure it out over time. It's that middle time in your career where it feels kind of like, how could I possibly do this? And you go through a stint where you try to get up earlier and stay up later, and try to fit it all in. And then suddenly you say, whoa, there is more time. There are lots of people that can carry, a lot of the responsibility, and it's really moving from doer to leader that causes you to recognize that.
So I've got two small kids, actually 3 and 5, and then and my husband works. He's an entrepreneur himself. So we kind of have a crazy life, because I'm working full time, And the key for me, though, is flexibility. And I believe that, starting a company and setting the culture and the rules, these days you can be, connected, in touch, involved, running your company, by BlackBerry or phone or whatever. I mean, we're so much more connected today that I feel that you can set up a culture of flexibility that allows you to manage all of these things in your life. And so that's
a major difference.
It's a major difference now, and I think, find a partner that, can be supportive, of being flexible as well. So I think, you make it work somehow.
Yeah, I mean, I kind of decided, look, there's an arbitrary, where there's 24 hours in a day, and you just arbitrarily decide how many hours you have to work. And so I'm pretty rigid about the number of hours I'll work, and the number of hours I want outside of my job. And what that does is it's a forcing function to find other people to do the things that I'm not getting to. And I'm, so.
Is that true in your family life as well as in your?
Yeah, it is. I have someone deliver fully cooked meals, for all 3 meals every day, for example. I just don't make any attempt to shop or cook anymore, unless I have time on the weekend and want to. But it's very high quality life because I come home and I'm with my family, and then we just put something, we have this meal, this wonderful meal together, and we don't have to go out, and I have someone that cleans the house and so forth. I have a lot of help because I simply don't have time. I don't want to be doing laundry. I want to be spending time with my family, and so I just use the fact that I'm busy. Because I'm so busy, I'm actually making some money that I can afford to pay people to do the things that I don't have time to do. But I can choose which things they are, and so being with the people in my family is what I prioritize. We actually have 2 kids. Yeah.
Excellent. Rhonda, I know you have a question.
This has been fascinating, and I really appreciate you all coming. I have a lot of questions. Maybe I'll boil it down to 2. The first one I think is kind of easy, and you've already addressed it, but I just want you to just say quickly again. So for women, really what trumps the disadvantage of gender in this kind of work? Is it the technical degrees? We have 2 MIT engineers on the panel, and you got training before one needed a degree for this sort of thing. Or is it the on-the-job kind of experience and having a track record? Or is it the networks so that someone can help you move into this? So that's one question. But my other question is more speculative. The panel is on kind of the future of Silicon Valley, and women are, it's shocking to me how few women are either VCs or entrepreneurs. It's even worse than women professors of electrical engineering at Stanford, which you thought couldn't be, there could be nothing.
A lot of them are entrepreneurs, actually.
Yes, so I know they are. So if in fact this whole enterprise opened up and there was more diversity of participation, whether it's women or other people leading these companies, would we have different kinds of products? And you were mentioning social responsibility and a move toward that. What does this mean, and what is women's view, if we want to put it that way, of social responsibility?